almost 30% of female physicians leave medicine entirely or significantly cut their hours within 6 years of graduating from residency. And I'm just thinking, something's not right. Like a third of women after they've gone to pre-med university, medical school, racked up hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt, went through a rigorous residency training program, and now they just tap out. I don't think these women are the tap out kind of people.
Welcome to How I Doctor, where we're bringing joy back to medicine. Today, I'm talking with Dr. Tiffany Moon, and if you only know her from the Real Housewives of Dallas, you might not realize she's a board-certified anesthesiologist, a mom of twins, an entrepreneur, and has a new book out called Joy Prescriptions. It's part memoir, it's part guide, and honestly, it's pretty relatable for any type A physician, myself included, whoever has felt the weight of perfectionism on our lives and the burnout that can follow. Joy Prescriptions comes out May 6th, 2025, so we're dropping this episode a little bit early. Please check it out. You can pre-order it at joyprescriptions.com. She wrote, "I used to think that joy was a destination, and that kind of hit me like a ton of bricks. I think it was a lesson that I actually learned during COVID, but I think it's a really important lesson for physicians to learn today more than ever." Dr. Tiffany Moon, thank you. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to talk to you.
Tiffany, before we get started, I just want to say a big thank you to you. The way we met was Off Call put out a request for help to support a rural anesthesia group of fellow anesthesiologists, and you helped us promote that. So the response has really been amazing. We've had hundreds of anesthesiologists show up and contribute information thanks to your post. Thank you for helping support salary transparency and equality in medicine.
You're so welcome. I'm happy to contribute to the cause because that's very important to me.
Thanks. If you're listening, you can still go to offcall.com and sign up. It's anonymous and free, and it's trying to help us advocate for change. Something you said in your Instagram post really stuck with me, and it's the importance of having access of that data for all physicians, but particularly women. Like if you look through your comments, a huge number of people were talking about the challenges of being a female physician. So maybe we can start there.
I still think that there is a gender gap for pay. Some people will say that pay is equal, and I will respectfully disagree. The data shows that it is not. Even when adjusted for level of expertise, number of years worked, RVUs, number of calls taken, adjust for whatever you want to adjust for. But the fact remains that women get paid less than men for doing the same work. I've seen big research projects. I've seen departmental data. I've seen AAMC data, and it remains that is true.
The majority of med students are female, are women.
It's close. It's like 51, 51-49.
Yeah, it's like, yeah. But for years, it was an entirely male-dominated profession. And still, we are seeing a lot of women get out of medical practice maybe 5 or 10 years afterwards. So it is hard, I think, to argue that the practice of medicine is like serving female doctors extremely well if they're deciding to leave and find something else to do or cut back their hours substantially. Like it seems like the profession is not serving our biggest group of users almost anymore.
There is a statistic that is put out by the American Women's Medical Association, AMWA, and they said something like almost 30% of female physicians leave medicine entirely or significantly cut their hours within 6 years of graduating from residency. And I'm just thinking, something's not right. Like a third of women after they've gone to pre-med university, medical school, racked up hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt, went through a rigorous residency training program, and now they just tap out. I don't think these women are the tap out kind of people.
Thank you. Yeah.
Let's examine the system within which they work, which sometimes, depending on institution and department and leader and things like that, makes it very untenable for women physicians to work and have this elusive work-life balance and raise a family and be sane. It's like pick
Yeah.
2
Oh,
out of
you wanted sanity with it, Tiffany?
not every day,
Yeah.
Graham, like, every day would be a lot, but just, like, most days than not, I would like to be sane
Yeah.
and not feel like a crazy person, which is how I felt sometimes.
The most common thing that I run across with my colleagues all the time is, the patient complains, "Oh, I never saw a doctor." And it's like, "Nope, you literally saw 3 doctors. They were just all female." And I mean, to the point that I think it is way more common that female emergency physicians feel that they have to wear a white coat to kind of play the role and wear the costume of doctor, because many patients still will not recognize them as the physician in the room, and the same stereotype of male nurses, like they will assume that the man is the doctor, not the nurse. What, Tiffany, like what other challenges come to mind when you think about just the stresses and the struggles of being a female physician?
It's not just being mistaken for a nurse, and, this happened to me not long ago. I had a male medical student who was doing research with me, and they literally thought that he was the doctor and I was the nurse.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Never mind that I'm, like, a decade older than him, but he is indeed a male and I am indeed a female, and, the patients, they're not trying to be rude or whatever, it's just unconscious biases, and we all have them. Like, I used to always try to be very serious face because I basically have 5 minutes to acquire the trust of my patient and their family members at the bedside before I take them back for surgery. It's not a very long time. I don't see them before the morning of surgery. So I need to walk in and be able to, look them in the eyes and say, I'm going to be your anesthesiologist. I will be taking care of you. These are the, risk benefits, all these kind of things. But sometimes I do that. I'm literally consenting the patient, have done their PMH, gone over the risk benefit alternatives of different anesthetic techniques, whatever. They're signed the consent. And then they're like, "Do you know when the doctor's coming in?" I'm like, What do you think just happened? Just like, you know what
Yeah,
I mean?
right. I You're doing all the
It's
doctor
wild. It's
things.
wild. I think it doesn't help to be Asian. I think it doesn't help to be of short stature. So, I have like multiple things going against me. And those are just the patient things. Then there's the colleague and like the things that come from the tower. After going part time, I felt that I was no longer considered to be a quote, serious academic anesthesiologist. And my administrative leadership roles were taken away from me. I was refused promotion from associate to full professor because I was part time. Sometimes they make it so untenable for women to have both, meaning work and life or family, that people go part time or leave. I mean, you have to ask why the system is not retaining its talent and these women are leaving because you simply don't make that kind of investment in your career and education to just be like, "Oh no, I'll just stay at home instead," or I'll, start my own knitting business and sell sweaters on Etsy. Like it's something I'm
Yeah.
telling you, the problem is not the women, the problem is the system. I stand by that.
I will stand right there with you. Anesthesia services are like in such high demand right now, especially. You would think if the system was logical, it would be trying to find ways to make it work so that a part time, you want. Oh, part time? Great. If I can get you for any hours, the system, the patients need this service, but the system continues to choose otherwise.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much wrong with the American healthcare system or the American sick care system, as I like to call it, that this is just really the tip of the iceberg. I mean, we could go on with the insurance companies and the pre-auths, and there's other doctors on social media who are much better versed. I always say I'm a little bit blessed in anesthesia because I never have to get pre-auth for my patients, right? By the time you're pre-auth for surgery, guess what? You need an anesthetic too. And I work at a level one trauma hospital. So, when they come through the ED and they've been shot and stabbed and I'm on my 40th unit of blood, I don't have to get a pre auth for that. So I don't deal with insurance companies at all. And I think that is one of the reasons that like I continue to do my job and my friends in primary care are about to pull their hair out. Like I think that's a big element of physician burnout. And then the other for me is like patient compliance. I'm like, oh, 100% of my patients are compliant. Like they do whatever I want when they're on my table. Now, after I drop them off in the PACU, that's none of my business. But I think there's a lot of factors contributing to the broken healthcare system and really the system not making it easy, or not even easy, but tolerable for women to work and still have a family, is one of the main problems.
Hey, if you're a physician who's tired of feeling undervalued, underpaid, and let down by your employer, then join us on Off Call. Visit offcall.com and sign up today. Just like Mark Cuban is bringing transparency to pharmacy prices, Off Call is bringing transparency to physicians and our careers. Thousands of doctors sign up for Off Call to get accurate, reliable, and trustworthy data about new jobs so they can advocate confidently for themselves and ensure their pay actually reflects their worth. So join us. Visit offcall.com and sign up today. It's time to take back control of your career. Reflect on your book a little bit. A lot of the book is about pressure and expectations. And I'm curious how much of that is self-driven, like it's just an internal engine of your own doing. How much of that is family? How much of that is culture, whether it's American culture or Chinese American culture or medical culture? Like, how do you break down how much of the challenges come from those different parts of your life?
That is an excellent question, Graham, and I'm not sure the answer, but if I had to break it down, I would say somewhere on the order of one third internal, one third society and medical culture, and one third coming from my parents and my Chinese background.
Yeah.
Yeah, if someone offered to pay the therapy bills, those are how I would divide the therapy bills to be sent out equally, and I would myself pay a third of them. Like, there's no randomized, double-blinded, controlled trial version of me that grew up differently and see how she turned out. They do those like identical twin studies where they like got separated at birth and like one went to Germany and one went to Switzerland and now their favorite color is both purple and they hate chocolate. Like, what are the odds? You know what I mean? Like, but unfortunately, as far as I know, I do not have an identical twin sister that grew up differently, and we don't know how she turned out. So I can only say that as a child, as I wrote in the book, I had an immense amount of pressure put on me. But I don't think that's a unique experience. I think a lot of people who are immigrants to this country, or maybe not even immigrants, had an enormous amount put on their shoulders as well. Because the people who come here for the opportunity at the American dream sort of expect their children to attain that American dream. So a lot of immigrants to this country, they placed enormous emphasis on their children to succeed, which in their eyes generally meant education and financial security. And joy was nowhere in the equation. My father never said like, did you have joy today?
Yeah.
Tell
Yeah.
me the funnest thing that happened to you today. Tell me something that made you laugh. These are the questions I ask my kids at the dinner table. My father did not ever ask me any of those questions.
I really liked in your book trying to navigate like one version of you and then realizing that maybe that version of you doesn't understand joy, and how do you like find that when you maybe haven't had it or it hasn't really been emphasized or prioritized in the past. You wrote, I realized that someone else's opinion of me is none of my business, which I loved. When you wrote about joy, I reinterpreted that word as meaning for me, because I think that's really, sometimes I struggle to think like, well, what is meaningful in my life? And that's a similar sense of joy of like, a sense of happiness and purpose and enjoyment and fulfillment, I think, as well, is maybe another word too.
Yes, joy is all of those things that you just said. So, to me, my definition of joy supersedes happiness. My friend Judith says that happiness is an idea and joy is the experience. And a lot of people, think of happiness as a state or a finish line, a destination of some sort. Like, if I do this, then I'll be happy, which kind of means that, oh, so without that, which you don't have right now, are you not happy? And I don't want to play that game. Joy to me is the experience. Like, having a delicious meal and savoring it,
Yep.
watching something on TV or having an inside joke with your family and everyone's just having like belly laughs. Like that to me is joy, which transcends happiness.
And I remember talking with my therapist when I was like a brand new attending, and I think I just had passed my oral boards in emergency medicine, and I was like done with everything. And I remember thinking like, well, what am I supposed to do with my free time now? Like, should I be reading journal articles, or I need to be writing something, or like, what am I supposed to do? And it really took me, and I counsel like younger attendings, it took me like 6 months to like accept I'm allowed to just do whatever I want. I'm allowed to spend my money how I want, because from whatever high school until I was, what was I, 31 or 32, everything was planned out for me, and I had milestones I had to meet to get to this level of attending. Tiffany, you also talk a lot about in the book about just being a parent and the challenges of being a good parent and being a good doctor as well. If there's anybody out there listening, like what are some of the lessons that you learned or took away from how to do those roles and find joy and meaning in being a mom, being a mother, and also being a physician as well?
Having kids and the process of getting pregnant, which for me was not easy, taught me a lot about patience and control. If I didn't have kids, I think I would be a completely different person. I think being a mom actually makes me a better physician. I'm definitely more caring. I think, whoever I have on the table or whatever I'm doing, I'm like, this is someone's child. And it kind of just
Yeah.
reminds me that it humanizes the patient. Because, sometimes when you get burned out, like you start to dehumanize patient and you call it like the case or the room number, like my case in OR 8. And it's like, wait a
Mhm.
second, your case in OR 8, like just got run over by a car and is someone's son. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Not
Yeah.
that I wouldn't do anesthesia well, but I think having practiced medicine for now 13 years post residency, you do get a little bit dehumanized from everything, right? And some of it is protective. Like if I cried over every patient that I've lost on the table, like I'd be a sloppy mess. But sometimes I got to pull up my big girl panties and go on with the next case. Is that the right thing? I don't know.
Yeah.
But that's what we do.
It seems like we go through this weird cycle where, like, when you're starting out as a med student, you've got like all this very positive emotion, and you want to do medicine for the right reasons, and patients really touch you in a very deep emotional way. And then as you maybe get in toward residency, internship, you realize you cannot be emotional about every single patient. I think you lose some of that humanity. And then as an attending, you're like trying to find that balance of gaining it back and being able to see patients as a father or a son or a daughter or an aunt or anything like that, but still at the same time recognizing that you have to find that balance, and that it was protective, but that like I always want to like let a little bit more in.
Me too. But it seems that the medical system wants to beat the empathy out of us.
Yeah.
And often there's no time for empathy. Often that's what it boils down to. I want to spend a little extra time and talk with the patient and answer their questions or just sit with them or pray with them. And there's no time because I gotta, get back into the OR lest I have a 30-minute turnover time and there's a ding, and I get a mean email that was like, your turnover time is just too long. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like I didn't have time to have empathy today, which I realize it sounds ridiculous, but
That's insane. I know. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
And the funny thing is, patients want that too. I think a patient would love for you to like spend an extra 5 minutes with them, just sitting, holding their hand, answering, hey, any additional questions about the medicines? This is when I do my my like verbal consent for patients, I say like, I just told you so much information and I know I speak really quickly. You have to have questions for me. Even the person that trusts me implicitly, give me some questions. Like, show me that you were listening. I think patients would love it too. But again, the system doesn't want that.
Well, the system is incredibly broken. And honestly, I didn't even see that until about maybe just 5 years ago. When you're kind of going through it as a med student, you don't know anything. Resident, you're just trying to survive. As an early attending, you're also just trying to survive and, build up your patient list and things like that. And then, like mid career, you kind of like see how the sausage is made, so to speak. And you're like, oh, like, I don't know about billing. I don't know about RVUs. Like, I don't know. It's none of my business. I'm here to take care of patients. But when you're out in practice, in private practice, especially if you're in a group, like, you have to know those things. And they don't teach you any of that stuff in medical school. So you're like going through, mini business school as an early attending. That's what you do in all your free time as an attending. Now you got to figure out how to run your business.
Part of it to me seems like there's a lot to learn in med school and residency. And so there's plenty on our plates already. And part of it's like, God, I think if we told the med students this is how the sausage is made, they'd be like, I don't want the sausage anymore.
They would, and people don't want the sausage anymore. I mean, a lot of people do, don't get me wrong. Medical school admissions are still very competitive, but if we continue to treat physicians the way we do, and Gen Z is wising up because they're more about, self-care and wellness than like our generation,
Right?
my parents'
Yeah.
generation was like, keep your head down and deal with it more. Um, the top talent will be recruited away from medicine because they see how unhappy the people before them are and how broken the system is. And there will be a few people who, really want to do it and think they can change and will be the change makers, I hope, for my sake, because I'm going to get old and I need someone
I
to.
know we're going to need medical care
I know.
too.
I look at some of the young people and I'm like, if these are the future doctors, like, we're really screwed. I'm like, my medical student asked me if they could leave at 2 p.m. And I was like, when I was a medical student, like, I never asked if
Yeah, I would never. Yeah.
I would never. At 2 p.m., they were like, so is this the last case? And I was like, yeah. And they're like, I'll probably just leave then if there's no more intubations after this. And I was like, oh my God. Like, oh my God. I can't imagine.
Tiffany, in your book, you have a joy prescription at the end of each chapter. And I'm wondering if you can share some of those mindset shifts that you think might help other physicians who are practicing as well, like to be either happier, more mindful, have more joy, more meaning in their lives.
The whole thing about joy is that it's the small moments that add up to be the big thing, and to stop anticipating joy, which is really the antithesis of medical education, is like,
Yeah.
we are on this roadmap that's clearly delineated, which I like, which soothes my anxiety to kind of know what's next, what step, like, this is how you go. But also it kind of rids you of the creativity and spontaneity to detour off this path that you think you need to be on. The some of the best and brightest doctors I know, did something else before medical school. They didn't just go straight through. Like, they worked in engineering, they were a teacher, they did Doctors Without Borders. I'm like, that's so cool. Like, if I didn't have kids, like, I would want to do something like that. But it's very difficult. I used to actually do medical mission trips to South America and to Mexico. We had one through the school. But like, it's so hard now well, first of all, my employment place is very stingy on our vacation. We get, in the months of June, July, and August, there's a lottery system, and you get 2 weeks in the full months of June, July, and August, which is when everyone needs
Everyone
vacation.
wants to take time off. Yeah.
Kids
Yeah.
are out of school. I can take a maximum of 2 weeks. And so it's just very hard. Like, so I'm not going to not waste, but use one of those weeks on a medical mission when, like, I could spend time with my children. It's just, they make it very untenable again, for people who want to do good things to actually do them. I'm actually taking PTO to go examine for oral boards because that's how the schedule worked out. I don't want the people who are listening to this feel despondent because this was supposed to be an episode about joy. But I do want people to know that, like, you can't wait for the joy to happen to you. Like, you need to have an
Yeah.
active effort in cultivating your joy. You need to be finding what brings you joy. This is the other question. Sometimes people are like, Dr. Moon, because I do coaching for women physicians and executives, and they'll be like, I don't really know what brings me joy. And I'm like, oh, girlfriend, we got so much work to do. I
Yeah.
think you end up serving so many people, your patients, the walls on your study for diplomas and gold stars, your parents, society, your spouse, your children, your patients. You end up serving so many other people that at the end of the day, like, you actually forgot what brings you joy. Like, we have to take a whole step back and find, like, well, what used to bring you joy when you were a little girl? Do you like arts
Yep.
and crafts? Do you like running? Did you used to play basketball? Like, you know what I mean? And so many times with some of my coaching clients, we're like going all the way back to even find what gives them joy. And then we cultivate it and we get rid of toxic things. We set healthy boundaries.
I was talking with Dr. Elizabeth Potter, who's a plastic micro.
Oh my God, I love her.
She's incredible.
She's
I was
in
talking with
Austin,
her.
Texas. I've never
Yeah,
met
she's in
her.
Austin. I was talking with her a few weeks ago, and we were just,
I follow her. I love her.
she's great, and she's so driven and dedicated to her patients. And she and I were just talking about how the Hippocratic Oath, we're taught from like day one of med school, like the values of medicine, of, non-maleficence and beneficence and first do no harm. And I think really the Hippocratic Oath kind of has been used against us and waged in an evil way, where because the patient is always supposed to come first, it like automatically means that the doctor has to come last. That does not no longer seems like a sustainable model, because there's always going to be another patient as well.
Yeah. My problem isn't even with the patients, by and large. It's with the intermediaries and the insurance
Yeah.
companies. Patients by and large are quite understanding if you just talk to them and they feel like
Yep.
listened to and cared for. I had a guy who was supposed to have a hip surgery the other day that was in new onset AFib with RVR, and I was like,
Mm,
like, maybe the hip can wait a little bit. I got to see what's going on with your heart. And he went and they were like, "Why did nobody tell us this yesterday?" And I was like, "I'm so sorry. I don't know. It's through the
yeah.
cracks. If you were my father, what I would recommend is being seen by cardiology before you come downstairs for an anesthetic." And I sat with the patient and his wife and we talked it all out. And they were upset, but after I talked to them, like, they were fine. And I think the vast majority of the problem is not the patients at all.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. I think the patients are unfortunately, like, ironically, the least powerful, like the most powerless in all of these other arrangements that are impacting the patient in the first place. Like, it's supposed to all be about the patient, but all of these other factors come and get involved as well.
I think we keep people unhealthy and chronically ill so that industry can benefit off of them. I think we don't give enough money, time, education to keeping people healthy, nutrition, lifestyle, patient education, and we eat like crap in this country. Like, I was at the airport and I was trying to find something healthy to eat.
Something, yeah.
Not there we don't make it easy to make healthy choices, and then we benefit off of chronically sick people. I think it's terrible.
Sometimes when you dive in, it is hard to think like the system is not rigged. I mean, every single doctor and nurse I work with literally is working nights, weekends, and holidays to try to make people better. But then when you look at the rest of the machinery above us, it does feel like, well, I can see why people believe a lot of the conspiracies, or or worry that, we're, doctors are trying to keep people sick because then we can keep them on a bunch of medicines or something like that.
It's not the doctors, I guarantee you. I don't know
I
a
know.
single doctor that would, like, withhold a medication or prescribe something extra and, like, be happy that stayed chronically sick. The problem is not the doctors, and the problem is not the patients. So, smart people do the math, figure out what the problem is.
Tiffany, let me ask you a few more things about your book. You talk about the trap of dress rehearsing tragedy. And I mean, I didn't know that anesthesiologists do this because this is literally all ER doctors do all day long is like, think about, I mean, we literally do this in residency. The attending will ask you, okay, what's the worst thing this person could have? And so we're always, I mean, that's our job is to rule out an emergency, to teach us how to think one step ahead, be on that algorithm so we're prepared that you've got your stick of like Neo drawn up in case the patient gets hypotensive or something. That's as much anesthesiology as I do. But
Very
like,
good.
thank you, thank you. But like, how do you untrain that mindset when you go home to actually enjoy your life? Have you figured it out? Because I'm personally asking just for me at this point.
No, you can't. The fact of the matter is that that is who I am. The
I know, it's like
qualities.
baked into our brains.
Yes, and the qualities that make me a damn good anesthesiologist
Yes.
also shoot myself in the foot at home. I could
Yes.
never be fully present. Okay, do you wanna know? My kids call me "no fun mom" because I will tell you why. Because they're not allowed to have a trampoline because I work at a level 1 trauma
You've seen it
hospital,
all,
and
yeah.
I've seen it all, and I've seen a quadriplegic who landed off a trampoline in just the right way and broke his spine. He was, like, 14 years old, you know what I mean? So they're not allowed to have trampoline. They're not allowed to zip line. They're not allowed to ride in a helicopter, which is weird because when my husband and I got engaged, he surprised me with the helicopter thing over Maui to look at the other islands, and it was, like,
Oh, yeah.
super romantic, and I'm like, "I'm never doing that again." They're not allowed to go in a hot air balloon. They cannot ride ATVs.
Oh, never, never.
This is like a thing in Texas, maybe not in San Francisco, but, like, in Texas, everyone, like, rides ATVs. Golf carts, unless they're on a golf course. Yeah, there's a huge long list of things that my children they're not allowed to play with fireworks, for sure. I mean, how many hands have we seen blown off on 4th of July, you know what I mean? And so my kids are just like, "Mommy, you never let us do anything." And I'm like, "It's for your own good. I am your mother. Like, my primary job in this life is to keep you safe." We've seen too much. What about you? I mean, how do you feel about all this?
I think it is a challenge, and I think I have to tell my brain, "Oh, thanks for that warning," and try to what I try to do actually is I try to tell myself, "What if a patient came into the ER saying what you're thinking in your head?" And I would be like, "That guy's crazy."
Yeah, I
And it
know.
tries to like deactivate that part of my brain and say, okay, yeah, that's actually not that reasonable thing to be concerned about. Well, Tiffany, let me ask you in our last few minutes, let me ask you just some kind of rapid fire questions about
Oh, I love rapid fire.
okay, what is one myth about success in medicine that we should kill, we should get rid of from the culture of medicine?
That being tired is a badge of honor.
Yes. For people that are listening that aren't in medicine, that's like the thing you brag about in residency is like how little sleep you're on.
Oh, yeah.
Like that you compare you're constantly comparing to the consultant. "Oh, yeah, I didn't get any sleep last night. Oh, I haven't slept in 3 days," It's like a
Well, can I tell you in that realm, until I was pregnant with twins at 6 months,
yeah.
I would take one 24-hour trauma call once a month, which was Saturday 7 until
Wow.
Sunday 7 because that's when all the madness happened, and it was a badge of honor, and I'd be like, "Oh my god, I did, like, 6 cases, we did MTV, there was a rollover, NBC," like, you know what I mean, and it was such a thing, and then I did that until I was 6 months pregnant with twins, so basically until I could.
Wow. Well, again, that seems so bad because a lot of the trauma is gonna come in on the Saturday night, so you've already been working doing probably elective cases 7A to 7P, and then 7P to 7A, the hardest the next 12 hours, you're doing all the critical stuff too, probably. What's something medicine taught you that you had to unlearn in real life?
Oh, that your superior is not always correct. Question authority.
Tiffany, what's one thing every doctor should say no to more often?
Sacrificing personal time to work more.
There will always be plenty of work to do. And I almost think that, discovering your joy earlier or your meaning or being fulfilled may actually make you be able to practice medicine for longer.
That's exactly right, Graham, because now you've built a buffer and you're not going to burn out, because you've been redlining your engine. You discover what your joy is, you put in healthy boundaries, you enforce those boundaries, and now all of a sudden practicing medicine becomes more joyful.
Tiffany, you wear a lot of hats. You've had and continue to have a lot of different roles in your life. We have talked with a lot of physicians who have stepped back from clinical practice or from the bedside, or that they're doing that part time. And they said that they've lost part of their identity, that things are so entangled with being a doctor as like their number one identity. How does being a doctor rank for you? And have you found ways to untangle that a little bit, going back to part-time practice?
I completely understand that sentiment. Look, when you've given up like your entire adolescence and early adulthood to achieve this dream of adding two letters after your last name, it is a part of your identity. So if you pull back a little bit, you do lose a part of your identity. It's like being married for however many years, then you get a divorce. You do lose part of your identity. For me, I was full time for 8 years post residency. Then I went back to 4 days a week for a year. And now I'm currently at 3 days a week. So FTE point 0.6. And I love that I went part time because if I didn't, I would have never become an entrepreneur. I wouldn't have had the time to write joy prescriptions. I wouldn't have had the time or energy to create Lead Her Summit, which is my women's conference that's in Dallas in November. Like going part time and losing a little bit of my doctor identity opened up the world in so many ways so that I could do other things outside of medicine.
When you said that like people dedicating their teens and 20s and 30s to medicine, it's going to be part of our identity, that's true probably of all humans, right? Like if you are a violinist or a skateboarder or a lawyer, like, and you spent 20 years of your life dedicated to something, that's just human nature, that's always going to be a part of your identity because half of your life is dedicated to it. You really believe in it, and it's part of you.
Yes, but you can do other things. You can always do other things outside of your stated profession. You can switch professions. Like, I don't know who listening to this needs some sort of permission or sign or whatever, but if it's not bringing you joy, seriously, find something else. I give a talk about building your personal brand on social media. I talk about, how I started posting on social media and it really took off. And now that's actually like a major stream of income for me that supplements my, not being full time at the hospital. And one of the audience members, and this was a physician conference, was like, I don't know. It's just too hard, like these sounds, and then you got to edit and you got to know it's trending. And how do you know which hashtags? And I was like, ma'am, did you go to medical school? And she's like, uh-huh. And I'm like, and did you go to residency? She's like, uh-huh. And I'm like, and you have a private practice that's pretty popular, you have a waiting list of She's like, uh-huh. And I'm like, and you think TikTok is hard? And she's like, I'm like, sit down with me, buy me a drink. I will teach you how to TikTok. If you can become a doctor, trust me, you can do anything. There are much less skilled people out there in the world doing way more. So the skills of being a physician are transferable, but also if you became a physician, you have whatever it takes to become something else too.
I love it, Tiffany. You just gave me chills. Uh, Tiffany,
We're all quitting our jobs. No,
I know.
I'm just kidding.
Leave. No. Uh, Dr. Tiffany Moon, I just wanted to say thank you. This has been an absolute pleasure to get to talk with you and just reflect on medicine and practicing and learning how to like find joy and meaning in life.
Yes, please, everyone, find your joy, cultivate joy because life is short. We all know that. And just, joy is the word of 2025.
Love it. Tiffany, where can listeners find you and your book?
The book can be found at joyprescriptions.com or anywhere books are sold. My website for speaking or social media or mentoring is tiffanymoonmd.com. And if you want to follow me on social media, I'm across all the platforms at Tiffany Moon MD.
Dr. Moon, thank you again so much. It's been a real pleasure.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining me today. For interviews with physicians creating meaningful change, check out offcall.com/podcast. Make an account on Offcall to confidentially share your details about your work and sign up for our newsletter where you can hear more about the latest trends we're seeing in physician pay. You can find How I Doctor on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. We'll have new episodes weekly. This has been and continues to be Dr. Graham Walker. Stay well, stay inspired, and practice with purpose.